Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? It's been a few weeks, it's been a while, so it's good to be back. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining us on another Rubber Duck Thursdays, and thank you for just being here and hanging out. It's always one of the highlights of my week is kind of just um, doing these streams, updating on what the latest is with GitHub, and just having some fun coding because that's what it's all about, right? And learning from you all as well, because there's so much I learn from you, and hopefully there's things that I can help you learn as well and help you kind of stay up to speed with things. So, as I say, it's been a couple of weeks since our last stream. A lot has happened since then. um, so, yeah, we didn't stream a couple of weeks ago because of Microsoft Build. So we'll kind of run through all of the kind of announcements that happened there. Spoiler alert: it was a good event. It was a good set of announcements, and I'm sure you've probably seen them all already. But we'll take a look at those. And then last week, really not exciting. My boiler broke down and I had to get it fixed, so I couldn't stream last week. So never mind. that is just part of life, right? So one of those things. But we're back this week, and we'll be doing our usual kind of setup here, going through things. So let me know, where are you tuning in from? What are you working on at the minute? Like, what's kind of that passion project? What is that exciting thing that when you're not doing the day job or when you're not doing the hobbies, you kind of sat there thinking, how do I solve that problem? How do I build this thing? My problem is I've always got too many. I've got too many ideas, too many domain names, too many different things that I'm working on. But I'll show you one that I've been trying out actually for demos. I mentioned it a few weeks ago, I think, actually, that we might build something like that. I started it, so I'll show you that. Um, I'll show you a little bit of some updates of things we've been working on. Copilot Airways. So some of you may remember it from GitHub Universe. We've been doing a bit of work on that to help us demo Copilot coding agent. So we'll see that today as well. And we'll see how we get on. I've also got an idea of a new game that we can bring into that Octo Arcade that we were building before. So yeah, there's a fair few things that we can do today. But I always want to make sure we're grounding this in what is it that you want to see. What are you interested in? Is it some of the announcements from Build, like Copilot Coding Agent and Agent Mode now available in Eclipse, Xcode, and the IntelliJ editors? Is it some of the stuff with GitHub models? Is it something else entirely? Is it like security? Is it like how you manage your pull requests and things? Let me know, because I always want to make sure we're staying on track in terms of what it is that you all want. So that's why I'm always so interested in what you're building, because then we can kind of try and tailor it and steer it in that direction. So without further ado, and there we go. It's great to see some familiar faces and familiar names, I should say, in the chat. Rubber Duck Thursday, Quack Quack. Hello, Surly Dev. Welcome, welcome. Build was great. Build was a lot of work, a lot of work. But I think everyone's very happy how it all turned out, and lots of great announcements. Of course, I'm biased, but I think lots of great announcements from GitHub there. So we'll walk through those, or some of those today, at any rate. But thank you for asking. Who else have we got in with us today? So let me scroll back up. Good morning, Vishwajit. Good morning, Sintika, Astitha as well. Good morning, James. Good morning from Nigeria. Romeo, good insights. Thank you. It's what we aim for, is lots of great insights. So stick around, because we'll be having more of those as we go through. From India, Bhuvana, Akshita from India, Wells from Kenya, Vishwajit from India, Arjav from India. Sturdy Dan, this is a great comment. So we'll bring this up on screen. So one of the things that I got to do at Build, which was super, super fun, was kind of similar to what we do here. We do a lot of live coding on this particular stream, and with the VS Code Live folks, we did a live stream. There were kind of four of us in a competitive kind of style. In fact, I'll bring it up on screen in a second, kind of show you all. But it was just a ton of fun. We basically had the audience decide from, I think, 4 or 5 live games that we had to go and make. 4 or 5 games that we had to make live, kind of vibe coding. And it was just so fun. Like the variety of like how the 4 of us approach the problem, the variety of like the results that we got as well, because of the ideas and the creativity we all had, and it was just a ton of fun, like lots of different ways for people to learn. So I'll kind of bring that up on screen in a sec here. Thanks for asking, Sadie Devon. Thanks for tuning in for that. Appreciate you. Gaz here, Geordie in Taiwan. Excellent. Welcome. Hello from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Wow, that must be early right now. Thank you. Good morning from Kenya. Hi, sir. Hello. Loredana here from London. Welcome. Reading is very grey and gloomy today, so I'm hoping the weather picks up for us because we're now in June. There should be bright sunshine, so let's hope. Let's hope. Good morning from Nigeria. Good morning from India. Good morning from Oh, I think you were talking to each other. Sorry. Hello from Myanmar. Good morning from the Netherlands. Hello from PH. I'm not great with abbreviations, so I'm not going to guess. Singapore, Pakistan, Kenya, and France. Good. Well, we've got a great mix of folks on today, so thank you all for joining. As always, when we're doing these streams, we're streaming across Twitch, across YouTube, across our LinkedIn channels as well. So if you're not seeing all of those kind of names and chats that I just mentioned, that's why, because we got folks across all those different platforms there. So welcome everyone. And good morning, Jesus from Mexico. And good evening, Haya from Nepal. Excellent. So without further ado then, let me bring up the changelog as we normally do. And we're going to go through, excuse me, all of the updates. And because we haven't done it for a few weeks, there are quite a lot. So I'm probably not going to go in as much detail as we normally do, unless it's like particular ones that maybe catch people's interest. So yeah, if there's anything you want me to focus in on a bit, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to try and go rapidly through these so we don't use all of our time here today. So what has gone on? Well, GitHub Enterprise Cloud with data residency is now available for self-service trials. So particularly useful for enterprises if you have that requirement there. GitHub Copilot Premium Request Reports available back in May the 16th. So that was something that was coming. So there we go. GitHub Copilot app modernization for Java now in public preview. This is one of the things that I found kind of interesting. A build. We had a load of different announcements, but some of them were around kind of that modernization kind of capabilities there. So if we take a look at that, the one for Java is now in public preview. I believe there was one also for .NET. Yep, there we go. And this is where we're starting to really get into this kind of agentic AI kind of space, where rather than having an AI which is kind of broad and generic, you're starting to focus it down on specific tasks, on specific scenarios, on specific kind of challenges to go and solve. And you probably all will have seen that with Copilot Coding Agent, which we'll talk a ton about in a bit. Also up was agent mode, now available in JetBrains, Eclipse, and Xcode. So many of you were asking me about this in like the weeks prior to build, and it was so hard because I was like, this is coming. Can't say anything, but this is coming. So there we go. That's now in public preview. So if you are one of those IntelliJ users, if you're an Eclipse user, if you are an Xcode user as well, great news. Copilot Agent Mode is now available for you, so you can go and try that out. And I should add, by the way, it's not just Agent Mode that is in there, but also you get all the things that you're used to with agent mode, like terminal execution, error fixing, task completion, but MCP support is there as well. So again, we've talked about MCP in previous sessions on the stream. Model Context Protocol, think of it as the USB-C adapter for agents. So if you wanted to go and bring in outside context from, say, another tool, so maybe Notion, for example, is something I'll show you a bit later. As long as there's an MCP server to do that, you can run that and then grant the agent access then via that path. So MCP servers support now available in JetBrains, Eclipse, and Xcode as well for GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. So really great set of updates there. So encourage you to try those out for sure. If you watched the announcements at Build as well, you probably would have seen that Grok 3 is now available in public preview in GitHub models as well. So again, more model choice. I think this is the world and the era that we now live in with AI. It's about experimenting with all those different models. GitHub models is that place where you can go and experiment. And there were some great announcements around GitHub models as well, which we'll come back to. But Grok 3 now available there. We talked about the .NET upgrade piece there as well. Creating issues with Copilot on GitHub.com. I'm going to skip past this one because I probably want to go and show you it, actually. Um, I say probably. It's not probably I want to show you. I definitely want to go and show you it. Probably we'll do that because I'm hoping we'll have enough time. So, yeah, we'll do a bit of a sense check after we're done here. GitHub models built into your repository is in public preview. This is pretty cool, actually. This is pretty cool. So, obviously, many of you will be aware that GitHub models has been available for coming up to a year now, I guess. There's kind of the public preview time that we had it launched last year. And it was always like this isolated tool, this isolated environment outside of your repository, outside of your context. Whereas now what you can do with GitHub models is you can store prompts inside of your repository. Let me actually go and full screen this here. Oh, there we go. So you can see this is like a prompt YAML file that we've got here. And when we kind of click on this new models tab in our repository, we can see those 3 prompts. And it's got that system prompt stored, that user prompt stored based on the context in that file. And we can go and set variables, for example. But the beauty, why this is so, in my mind, why this is such a big deal is how we evaluate the effectiveness of like prompts and things in our applications and the models that we're using. We want to have this kind of experimental mindset. And this is what this view gives us. We can now compare these different models here. We can try different inputs, for example. And what we can also do, you can see we're changing the model there. So we're comparing DeepSeek v3 with OpenAI GPT-4o. What you can do is you can add these evaluators. So if you think about trying to assess the appropriateness of a model, actually appropriateness might not be the right word because that does mean something in AI world, I'm pretty sure. But testing if a model is maybe the right fit for the app that you're building. So being able to check if it contains certain outputs in the string, how similarity it is to some kind of QA scenario, how relevant it is, how grounded it is. And it allows you then to just have this kind of experimental mindset. So if you're trying to, there's a new model that comes out, you want to see if you should upgrade to that one or you should switch to a different model, maybe for cost reasons, maybe for in terms of speed of responses, then now you can go and use this approach, this models tab in the repository. And actually, you can even control the models which can be allowed then as well. So lots of great kind of updates there with the GitHub models piece. So yeah, big fan of that one. That is something I honestly haven't had the time to play with in depth yet, but it's something I really want to go and play with. Where my time has been going a ton though, and I couldn't talk about this before Microsoft Build, but I've been doing a ton of work over the past 6 weeks or so on this, is Copilot coding agents. Honestly, I am blown away by the work of this team. Absolutely amazing work. So if we think about like completions, code completions, that's very kind of synchronous. You're typing in your IDE, you get that kind of ghost text back. So it's like the autocomplete, but for code, right? That's kind of what we started Copilot with. Then came along chat, and we had that kind of back and forth conversation. Then we brought along edits, and edits allowed you to start making kind of inline changes to the code. And then agent mode came along, and you could start running builds and tests and having this more autonomous agent. But throughout all those experiences, it's quite synchronous. Like, even with agent mode, you're still kind of there in the chat doing this kind of back and forth. The difference with Copilot coding agents is it's asynchronous. You assign Copilot that issue, it goes and works on that. It goes and works on that in the background, right? And I think that's what is the beauty of this kind of approach. And you've probably seen it with other announcements that have come out in the industry over recent weeks as well, this kind of shift in this kind of agentic way of working. And what I love about this experience is it's just so natural. Like, it's just the same as if I was assigning a GitHub issue to someone else on my team. It's just the same as me reviewing a pull request as someone else on my team. So it builds on all those foundations that we're used to. So I'm not going to dive into this one too much because we're going to take a look at that in a little bit here. But yeah, my experience has just been amazing with Copilot Coding Agent. So next up, secret protection expands default pattern support. So let's see what's in here. Block protocol, Datadog, Docker, Grok, Heroku, the other Grok that is with a Q, Heroku, MongoDB, Salesforce, and XAI. So great, good to see those. Secret scanning alerts API now supports hiding secret literals. Let me see that one. Oh, the API, I see. Gotcha. Good. Let's jump back, maybe. There we go. CodeQL adds support for Kotlin 2.2.0 in version 2.21.3. So that's in CodeQL version 2.21.3, by the way. Grok 3 Mini, now available in public preview in GitHub Models. Deprecation of bulk conversations of issues to discussions by labels. And of course, a very big one that also came out that week. We're still on 2 weeks ago, folks. Like, this is how much has kind of happened over the past few weeks. Claude Sonnet 4 and Claude Opus 4 are now in public preview in GitHub Copilot. I did see some comments in the chat there that folks have already been using that and been impressed by kind of Claude Sonnet 4 in agent mode. Agree, it's been a lot of fun to work with. I've enjoyed using that one personally. So that's now available. And of course, let's just quickly check in. So availability, Claude Sonnet 4 is available to all paid Copilot plans, while Opus 4 will be made available to Copilot Enterprise and Pro Plus plans. So you can access both in copilotchat.com, Visual Studio Code, and GitHub Mobile through the model picker. Sonnet 4 is also coming to agent mode and the Copilot coding agent. So yeah, good news there. And of course, if you are using Copilot Business or Copilot Enterprise, I suppose Copilot Business for Sonnet 4, but you will need to go and have an administrator go and enable that model policy for your folks internally. Next up, sunset of automatic watching of repositories and teams. We talked about that one quite a while ago. There was a good amount of notice on that one. Dependency auto submission now supports Gradle. And by the way, I'm just going to put the short URL there if any of you want to go and take a look at that. Let's see. Dependency auto submission now supports Gradle. Great. Dependabot support for virtual network and Actions Runner Controller is generally available. So if you're using Actions Runner Controller, great news, that support is there. GPT-4o Copilot May update, so that's the model for code completions there. So let's see, we've updated the model released in March to a new version. Mid-trained version has a more recent knowledge cutoff of March 2025. Provides more useful suggestions, has been improved through reinforcement learning in response to user feedback. So all in all, high quality is kind of the summary there. Consistent billing of Copilot seats is all good. Copilot Code View, better coverage and more control. So more control with personal settings. Great, so you can add, there's a personal setting now for Copilot Pro users and Pro Plus, where you can turn that on. Smarter, more actionable reviews. So it generates 80% more comments per pull request, focused on code quality, correctness, clarity and style, and robustness and accessibility. Great. So you can now use that on over 900 languages, which again is brilliant to see the expansion of that. I'm always amazed at the things code review picks up when I think, yeah, my PR looks good, let's raise that. And then it comes back fairly quickly with some suggestions. I'm like, yep, should have caught those. Thank you for that. So it's good to have that additional set of eyes there. CodeQL no longer detects hard-coded secrets. Again, that was an announcement from a little while ago that was coming. And of course, if you want that kind of secret detection, of course, use secret protection for that. Incremental security analysis makes CodeQL up to 20% faster in pull requests. Great, good to hear that. Improvements to C++ code completions in VS Code. Great. Introducing Copilot Spaces. I like Spaces. Again, I've only really been able to start using them over the last week or so because I've been so focused on other bits. But think of Copilot Spaces as a way for you to kind of centralize and bring together a common set of instructions, relevant attachments. So things like, certain files from a repo, for example, and then you can kind of have this dashboard or this landing page almost for this different kind of space to kind of go and have those previous conversations, as you can see here. So it makes Copilot this kind of subject matter expert for something you specify, and you can have these different spaces, not just personally, you can share them across an organization as well, and scale them across your teams. So, this is this has been interesting. I've seen a few different scenarios where people are trying this out for things like documentation and kind of having that always on evergreen kind of space to go and interrogate and discuss documentation and kind of the application. Learning, onboarding, kind of reporting. Like, there's so many different ways I've seen folks even across GitHub using this. So really, really interesting and fascinating to see the Copilot Spaces there. So that's great. All right, and then JSON schema support in GitHub Models AI developer tooling. So again, if you're using GitHub Models and you're needing a specific JSON schema, you can put that into the prompt editor UI, just like in the models playground. So that's another benefit that's come into that new models kind of tab here. So you can see you got your parameters, you got your JSON option there, and then you can specify what that looks like. So now that takes us into June. We're finally in June, we're out of May. Let's see what else has come out here. So it's now easier to grant dependable access to repositories from the organization level. So that's great in terms of that enablement and that ability to be able to go and see or provide access to Dependabot. Custom roles can now review secret scanning alert dismissal requests. Great. So custom roles, help you with management and those kind of pieces. So great to see that piece there. Increasing GitHub Enterprise importers repository size limits. Enterprise managed user repository collaborators are only available. Great. And GitHub Enterprise Server 3.17 is now generally available. So if you're an enterprise or an organization who is running your own instance of Enterprise Server, there you go. The latest one's now available. So take a look at that update. Releases now expose digests for release assets. So I'm guessing that's like the SHA or whatever the kind of checksum is there. Yeah, the SHA 25 256 checksum there. Okay, great. Good to see that. CodeQL can now be enabled at scale on C or C++ repositories in public preview using build-free scanning. There we go, excellent. Copilot Chat now supports attaching references using the @ symbol. I believe that is in .com, if I remember rightly. Yep, there we go. So that one is now there. So GitHub Copilot Coding Agent now available on the mobile app. You might recognize the person in that video. Hello. Let me go and play that one a sec. So yeah, we'll take a look at coding agents a bit more, but let's jump into the mobile side of it. You're not just limited to this on github.com. You can also assign them from the mobile app. So, here we are looking at our GitHub issue. We're going and looking at the info. We're assigning Copilot to that. And then just like we're used to with coding agents in the browser, Copilot responds with those little eyes emoji. And then we get the pull request there, then linked. And then it carries on as we would expect. And then in that video, I carry on looking at it from github.com. In the mobile app, in the github.com on my web browser on my mobile is kind of what I do there. Um, But there are some pieces in there where you can kind of deep link from the mobile app to the github.com site as well. So yeah, that was something actually. I'm pretty sure it was last Rubber Duck Thursdays when I stopped streaming. I got back to work on some other bits, prepping for build, and as I left my place, I went across to kind of go get some lunch, and I used Coding Agent from my phone, assigned it to a couple of issues, and was kind of tracking that on the go. So yeah, it's a pretty cool experience, that one. Um, what else have we got? DeepSeek R1 0528 is now generally available in GitHub models. So good to try that out if you've been using any of the DeepSeek models there. And finally, we're caught up. Enhanced metrics for CodeQL, pull request alerts, and Copilot auto fixes. I was just talking about auto fix yesterday, actually. Maybe we'll see it a bit today. There we go. But there we go, some enhanced metrics that we can see in some of the insights there on the security side. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. Well, that is the latest in terms of the changelogs. And wow, wasn't there a lot? Wasn't there a lot? That is just what? 2 weeks. No, sorry, 3 weeks. I beg your pardon. 3 weeks since our last stream. So, a lot to cover. But exciting times, right? Very exciting times. I'm going to quickly try and catch up on just what's been going on in the chat here. So, good morning, Alexander. Hello, Praveen. Hello, Rujanil. Theodore. Hello, welcome back. Christian, Slenny, MT, Jesus. There we go. Yeah, you've been using Claude Sonnet 4 agent mode. Crazy how well it works. Also experimenting with adding some instruction files. Please, 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 please add those instruction files. So important. The last few streams that we did were all about Copilot custom instruction files. And the reason why they're so important is you can also use them with Copilot coding agents. And so really important in terms of the steerability of Copilot. So yeah, really encourage that one. Good afternoon, Nicholas. Hello there. Fasad. Hello. Piyush. Hello, hello. Good evening. Hello. Aaron Pan. Good evening. Wow, again, just the amount of variety where folks are coming from Ghana, from India, Nigeria, India. Excellent. And hello, McNett. Good morning. Good to see you back as well. Anurag, hello. And Surly, you're there. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. And interesting, Rose. The live keeps breaking. Is it from your end? No one else has mentioned anything. So I suspect it might be your end, but folks, please chime in if you are seeing any other issues. Let me know. But everything seems okay on my side, so please do let me know. Okay. And fourth disgrace. Beginner question. Does it work with Unity, Godot, UE5 coding can be instructed to work for those? I'm assuming you mean Copilot, or is there a specific thing? In all honesty, I personally haven't tried with kind of Unity, Godot, or Unreal Engine. It really depends on the languages, and it depends, on so many different factors. So honestly, the thing I would say is give it a try, give it a go, and that's probably where you'd want to start and kind of see how you get to from there. It's always been an area I've wanted to experiment with, actually, the whole game dev side of things. I think I said on the stream before that the way I started my software development journey was actually doing game development on an online MMORPG, like a sci-fi based one. and it was all kind of web browser based. So it was like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So very different kind of game work to what we're talking about there. But yeah, it always has kind of a fond place in my heart because that's where I started. So yeah, I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that one. So definitely worth trying it out. That's what I always say is kind of try it out and kick the tires a little bit and see how you get on there. Yeah, of course. Very welcome. Good. So, folks, I need your input. I've got three different directions that we can go in here, and I have suspicions what directions you might want to go in. Do you either A, want to talk about a little bit of a pet project I was working on? Oh, there we go. I've got the I've got the little bubble reaction. Let me go and turn those off here. If I remember how. I think it's that one. No. Oh well, I'll just try and limit putting my thumbs up. There we go. This pet project that I've been working on. So for helping us hydrate demo applications, we often need to have like GitHub issues in place, GitHub discussions in place, and those kind of things. So I've been working on a GitHub CLI for that. Been using a lot of kind of Copilot coding agents, a lot of agent mode on that, so we could talk through that. One of my peers, one of my colleagues, made like a snake game, which we could integrate into the Octo Arcade that we were building a long time ago, in that kind of Next.js based app. So we could go and take a look at that and have a bit of a play with Copilot agent mode there. Or the one I suspect you'll all probably want to jump into is a bit more of a deeper demo with Copilot coding agents. And that's kind of where I'm leaning to start with, and then we'll maybe do some of the other bits. At GitHub Universe last year, you might have seen the Copilot Airways app. I showed you that we built like a mobile app version of that recently. Agent mode helps with that. It was excellent. But what I've done is I've kind of set that up so we can kind of show off Copilot coding agent as well. So maybe if I do some demos on that, just to kind of show coding agents a bit more to folks, show you some of the concepts which are really important, like Copilot custom instructions, Copilot setup steps, the setup steps for, setting up Copilot's environment, thinking about how you scope issues, and a few other tips and tricks as well. So that's what I'm thinking is let's focus maybe on the Copilot coding agent aspect to begin with. And then, go from there, I think. Does that sound good? What do you all think? And Christoph, after hours playing with Java Smart Home, playing with the system that connects to it over MCP. Excellent. Yes, this is the world we now live in. We've got the smart devices. We can go and connect there with MCP and things. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. Right. Let me just go and load this back up. So npm right. So I'm just getting my little app running again here, just so I can kind of show you this to kick off with. So I'll share my screen once I got that loaded. And let me bring that banner off. There we go. Okay. Agentic flows. Indeed, Janisco. It's all about those agent flows. There we go. Right. There we go. Good. Let me bring up my screen. So, some of you may remember this from, let me just bring our little ducky away, just so you can see everything there. Oh, there we go. We showed off this app in the keynote of GitHub Universe last year. Made some changes to it, so we can now go and go and book some flights, for example. So we might go and add something like Mona Lisa, whatever the number is, good. And, have some kind of name, some validation going on there. Unrecognized card type, things like that. So, we've got this kind of basic app setup going on here, which is cool. We can go and find the booking as well. So let's say we've got an existing booking. There we go. I can go and find my existing booking here, for example. So you get the point. It's kind of like a fictitious little airway app here that we've got. Now, obviously got that running in my code space, so I just got that set up and running. And the code that I have is over here. So what we can do is we can use Copilot coding agents to go and, of course, help us make changes on that app. Now, I've deliberately left a lot of things kind of half-baked in the app. If I go and take a look at my GitHub issues, you'll see a load of different things in here, ranging from improving the header and footer responsiveness, updating our GitHub Actions workflow, for example, adding unit tests for booking and travel guide features, and converting our tests. So we've got quite a mix of things which could be considered like technical debt, or things that maybe we just haven't got around to because our development teams are always focusing on that kind of top, however many % of the issues that come in. And there's always the things that we can never quite get to. So let me just go and take a look at this one as an example, converting my tests from JavaScript to TypeScript. And the background behind that might be, we're now standardizing on TypeScript instead of JavaScript. And, the issue here is pretty clear. So we've got a description, we've got a general overview of what we want to go and do. So the code base uses a mix. So make sure we got consistency, improve type safety. We're going to migrate from JavaScript to TypeScript. And all of these different pieces here. So you can see we've got some kind of acceptance criteria, some implementation notes, and also some information on why this matters and the related files. So quite literally just a case of coming in to our assignee tab and clicking and assigning that to Copilot. And this is what I'm saying is this is the difference between working with Copilot in the IDE and working with Copilot coding agent, because now this is very much async. We see that Copilot has given that little emoji reaction there, the eyes emoji. And already it's gone ahead and linked a pull request that it's working on to this issue. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best at making sure that I cross-link my issues to my pull requests. So already it's doing better than me on that. So let me go and take a look on that. So you can see here that, yes, thanks for assigning me the issue. Here's the original issue that we were working on. It's got all of that context and all of those pieces. And we can see here that we can go and view that session. So the session itself is basically what Copilot is doing. Think of it as like a set of logs for what Copilot's thinking, doing, and running, etc. So the difference being here that you will see this take potentially 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. That's the difference. It is very much asynchronous. We're not there as part of that kind of back and forth request anymore. It will go and try and solve that issue. Now, once the initial kind of approach is kind of done, it will come back to that pull request. It will commit those files. It will then go and kind of post an update, a comment, etc., to say, hey, this is what I've done. Please, can you go and review that? So it's still human in the loop. It's still very much on me to go and review those changes, making sure it passes all the quality checks that we're used to, etc., and kind of going through that process. So you can see here it started kind of working through things. So it's kind of starting like what we probably would, right? So if I were asked to kind of pick this up, I'd start looking through the repo, maybe just get a sense of like what dependencies are there, checking test files, and starting to just get a current state of the environment. So are the tests running okay? What's kind of going on here, and just exploring a little bit. So that's obviously going to take a while. So we're not going to sit here and wait for that one. Let me go and, oops, there we go. Let me go and take a look at a few that I've made already. Let's go and look at the refactoring one. I always like refactoring as an example. So the issue that we started with, if we look back at the, if we look back at the original pull request, so find your trip form, complex, got approximately 900 lines of code. We need to do this for code maintainability. There's our acceptance criteria. There's our implementation references. So it's very similar to what we mentioned in that other issue a moment ago. Now you can see what pull request, what Copilot has done to the pull request is updated and said what it's done. So it refactors the large and complex find your trip form into smaller, focused, reusable components. This is what it did. It made a trip type selector, an airport selector, a date selector, a passenger selector. So it's kind of gone and split those out there. Maintained 100% test coverage across those new components. All existing tests pass. So, it's given a really good summary in terms of what changes it's gone and made there. I can go and take a look at those files as an example. So we can see the airport selector there. That seems okay. That seems all right. So what I might go and do is, go into my code space. There we go. There we go, and close that one. Let's check out that. Oops. I don't think I copied it correctly. Copilot /fix Copilot fix-5. Okay. I'd go and kind of run that in my environment, then check that everything is working as expected. And that app might take a little while to go and run. Oops, that's my old version. There we go. You can see how, the process that I would kind of take to review someone else on my team's code and kind of what their contributions are is exactly the same as what I would do here with a Copilot coding agent. So there we go. We can see there's maybe something to go and fix here on this depart and return date picker kind of thing. Something doesn't look quite right there. We can go on the find your trip. We've got the trip selector there, all looks good. That looks good to me. This all still looks good as well. If I went to find my booking, that kind of process that we go through in terms of like smoked thing, etc. Yeah. Now, I could come back on to the comments and add some comments and say something like, I don't know, this code isn't clear. Can you go and add more comments for me, please? Or I could say something like, this goes against our practices. Instead, we should be splitting this out into a separate file. Or, whatever it may be. When you do those comments, Copilot will then respond to them like we saw with the issue, and then keep iterating on those things for us then as well. So that's kind of cool. So let me go and take a look at one that I started yesterday, which is this GitHub Actions one. So Basically, we want to update our workflow for CI/CD. So it currently does builds and things, but it doesn't do a deployment. I'm pretty sure I set up my repo to have access to pages. So let me go and have a look. Yep, we can deploy with actions, and it'll be a private page. So let me go and take a look at that. So what has it done? It's renamed the file from CI to CI/CD. It's added a deployment job that runs only on pushes to the main branch. It's configured the permissions. So in theory, let's take a look and see. CI/CD, run test. If it's on main, then upload the artifact. Pages token, right, ID token. Yeah, and then deploy to pages. That might work. That might be an older. Oh. Oh no, V3 is the latest. There we go. Okay, so V3, so a path out. So that'll be the out path from the build process. So that looks good to me. It's also adding the badges as well, which is kind of nice. It's updated the Next.js config for us, and it's added this kind of export piece as well. Did it need to do that necessarily with build there? Probably not. So that's something I could go and ask Copilot to fix, but you know, I think for this, what we're doing here, it's probably okay. So now my next step is obviously making sure my checks run. So I can see that my CodeQL scan's been okay, but to run my actual GitHub Action workflows, I need to go and approve that workflow to run, because we don't want to necessarily run that code until we've manually reviewed it and checked it, like we should always be doing. So let's go and check that out, see if that all works correctly. And while we do that, I'm going to hit ready for review. Now, the beauty with this, so this is a repository right now that is basically just me in it, but the rest of my team aren't in it. They have access, but this is like my demo kind of repo. So because it's just me, I haven't set up like repository rules and things like that. But if I had, and I said I needed a minimum number of reviewers, then someone else will have to review that PR for me. Even though Copilot did the work, I'm the one who kicked it off. So in theory, I'm kind of working like I'd be reviewing like my own work or like Copilot's work with me. So we have to get someone else to go and review that if we asked for like more than one reviewer or a reviewer, for example. So that's one of those nice just kind of quality things in there that the team have thought about in terms of making sure that quality checks are kind of baked in the way that we'd expect them to be. So let's go see. How's that doing? Doing the build. Let me go and read the comments here. Yeah, I'm really curious on your comment, Rose, about Copilot doesn't help a beginner. I've personally found my learning is now a lot more contextual based on what I'm doing. I think when I reflect back on my learning of software dev, I'd always be mapping like the docs to my scenario and trying to apply that to my scenario. And there would always be some cases where it didn't really match what I was doing. Whereas the beauty with Copilot is I get to learn in the context of what I'm working on. And I personally am someone who learns in a very practical way. So for me, I found this actually being a great help. So yeah, curious on your thoughts there. Good morning, great. Good morning from Nigeria. I wanted to express gratitude for Copilot, can't stop using it. Likewise, Vikrant, likewise. Good evening from Bengaluru. Excellent. Oops, I want to click there, I want to click there. All right, so let's jump back to that PR then. All checks have gone green, so let's go and... So this is one of the things I really like, by the way. I configured Copilot code review on this repo as well. So we also get these reviews coming up. And there we go. it's gone ahead and made that suggestion. Um, I'm going to leave that for now because, again, for the purposes of what we're doing, this is fine. But let's go and merge that and see what happens. Hopefully, we will get a deployment, all being well. Gareth, so if you can't assign Copilot to an issue, there's a couple of things potentially. So number one being you need to be currently Copilot Pro Plus or Copilot Enterprise as a user. Oh, and my camera has stopped, so bear with me while I just fix that 1 second. There we go. We're back. Yeah, so it's coding agents available to Copilot Pro Plus and Copilot Enterprise at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of the first thing to check is kind of what SKU you're on. Then, depending on if you're using it in an organization or personally, you'll need to go either into the organization settings and allow Copilot coding agent to be used on whatever repositories. And also, if you're on the enterprise side, you might need to turn on the policy, or rather have an admin turn on the policy that you're able to go and use that. So those are just a couple of things to look out for. All in the docs, so definitely worth taking a look through those. There might be a couple of things that you need to switch on if you are in one of those SKUs there. So yeah, hopefully that helps. So let's go see what's going on. We're doing our tests. We're passing. We love passing tests. We uploaded our artifacts. Great. Love that. Love that. Love that. And now if we go and deploy. Oh, exciting. Okay. Oops, I came out on the wrong thing. Oops, no, came out on the wrong thing again. Sorry. This one. There we go. It's live. It is live. So this is the beauty, right? Is now I know that actions and deploying to pages is just one example, but like converting those tests, adding tests, all of those things that maybe we haven't had a chance to get to, we can now assign to Copilot in the background to go and work on those as an additional member of the team for us. So yeah, I thought this was kind of a nice example. Now, something I do want to show just super quickly is let me go into the context of my repo here and imagine the scenario now that we have a development team that are using a tool which maybe isn't GitHub issues. They're not storing their information in GitHub issues. They're storing it elsewhere. So I'm just going to run this macro here a sec that I've got. There we go, and we'll get it typing. Let's imagine the product team is storing their documents in Notion, and they're tracking their requirements there to add user reviews to a travel guide. So we're going to pass in the URL where that's available. Can you create the GitHub issue, to get the engineering team to implement that? Avoid duplication, just link to the Notion doc directly. So we're very clearly not including any context about what it is that we're building. We've got the travel guide already. We want to build user reviews into that. That's as much as we know. So when we ask Copilot there to do that, it's going to go ahead now and create a GitHub issue for us because that's what we asked it to go and do. If we go and open that, you can see here that, implement user reviews, featured in the travel guide, see Notion requirements. Product team has outlined requirements for that. And that's the URL. review the doc, implement the feature, ensure adherence to code standards, update documentation. So very, very little detail in terms of what it is that we want and need to go to implement. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to assign that to Copilot. And you're probably thinking, hold on, Chris, how's Copilot going to work on that? Like, how's it going to access that stuff in Notion? Let's bring it back to that conversation we had a bit earlier about model context protocol. So here again, we see the little eyes emoji. We're going to go and click on that PR. And we'll let it kind of start running for a minute, and I'll kind of show you it working in a sec. In fact, actually, while we're doing that, let me just go to my settings on my repo, go to this Copilot tab, go to coding agent. You'll see in here that we have our MCP configuration. So we're running, we're running that Notion MCP server as a Docker container. And then we're pulling in that environment key for Notion then as well, which is over here in environments and in Copilot. And you can see it there. So if I just go back a few steps to the page, there we go. And if we just jump into that session, so it's still setting up there, spinning up the environment. There we go, it's just done. So you can see that the first tool call that it goes and makes is a call to the Notion API through that MCP server to go and retrieve that page. So it's gone and got the ID, the user, blah, 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 blah. And then it's gone and getting the page. So there's an overview, all of this kind of context that's coming back about what the context in that page, the content in that page, I should say. So it's gone ahead, brought that in, and now using that to go and build the plan in terms of what to go and build. So again, you can just see how Model Context Protocol, or MCP, is kind of part of this overall kind of puzzle of bringing these things together here. So we've looked at MCP. MCP is very important, when we're thinking about integrating with those other tools and services. But there's a few other things which are really important when you're thinking about Copilot coding agents. If we look at the issues, actually, and let's just look at this one that we haven't assigned yet. You'll notice that all of my issues are following a very similar structure. So we're starting with an overview. We've got like a problem statement of what the thing is that we're trying to do. So we're giving Copilot context on what is that overall thing that we're trying to achieve in this issue. We're then giving a bit of a deeper description, like what are the problems here? So we've got a file called booking details. We've got a file called flight booking details. We've got one called find booking form, find your trip form, travel guide form, travel guide map. But there's inconsistencies, there's similarities, like it's not really clear what file does what, and it's kind of confusing if you're someone new coming into the code base. So we're describing what that problem is. We're describing what the acceptance criteria are. We're then showing the implementation details, and then we're adding the additional context then as well. So you can see how they all follow this kind of recipe of like giving that overview in that broad problem statement, that deeper kind of description, that acceptance criteria, really important, and then those kind of pointers on what files you need to look at, what changes you might need to make, and just helping Copilot. Because one of my colleagues, Christopher, said this, and it really sticks with me, is don't play coy with Copilot, right? If you were working with a colleague, you wouldn't be like, oh, well, you probably maybe need to go and update those files. So go do it. I'll see you later. You kind of give them a bit more instructions. So these are the files that you probably need to go and change. I think then you need to go and do this, go do this, try that out, and then let me know how you got on after that. So be explicit in what you're asking for, with Copilot. Make sure you're being really clear. We've talked about this in the past in terms of being specific, being simple, to the point, etc. So this is all kind of useful when you're thinking about thinking about this. So the um, the other thing you'll notice here is this issue is pretty well scoped. And this is something that one of the product managers mentioned to me, actually, and it's really stuck with me. Is this solvable in a single pull request? And if the answer is no, you probably want to decompose that and break that down a little bit more. And then you're getting into this place where the issue is well scoped. No, Waylon, this is not pre-recorded. It's live. Hello. Very much live. So yeah, we're all real time here. So issues, the well scoped piece. That's one part of it. The next piece, something we've already touched on, Copilot instructions file. So important. So important. This is the context of like the code and the code base for us. It's us giving pointers to Copilot. But this is a Next.js based travel application, TypeScript, using Next.js, the app router architecture. Before you commit, please make sure you're on npm lint. Any client component should be marked with use client. Ensure the test pass run using npm run test. These are the kind of code styling conventions that we have. These are the commands that you should use to go and run things for the app. This is the repository structure. These are the key guidelines. So it's given Copilot those pointers to be successful. This is so important. Even outside of Copilot coding agent, I found with Copilot chat in ask mode, in edit mode, in agent mode, if I can give Copilot some instructions and some context on the repo, I personally find the results I get back and the suggestions I get back are just so much better. So absolutely recommend spending the time looking at Copilot custom instructions. These are definitely a worthwhile investment and exercise if you're using Copilot. Now, the other thing that is important to consider with Copilot coding agents in particular now is how you think about Copilot setting up its environment. So if you think about it, you've joined a new company, you've joined a new team, you're given your laptop. You're not just kind of expected, right, go forth, you've got nothing on there, try and start developing straight away. You might have a corporate image, you might have some tools already installed. There might be things that you need to go and set up before you can start developing. And for us kind of developers, using GitHub, for us, the answer to that has been code spaces. For Copilot, the answer to that is actually GitHub Actions. So you may have noticed the Copilot has been running in a GitHub Action workflow. And so there's a very kind of special GitHub Action workflow that you can create, which the analogy I like to think of is this is setting up Copilot's machine. Think of it like that. So you can see here that all we're doing is a few different things. We're checking out the code, setting up Node, and we're installing the dependencies. Now, Copilot can go and do all those things itself. Like, if we didn't have this file, it probably would go and make sure a version of Node is configured, probably try and install the dependencies. But the thing that we're doing here is giving Copilot a deterministic base. I'm sorry, not deterministic, but a predictable baseline to start from. So we know before Copilot starts any work that it will have set up Node version 22 and it will have installed the JavaScript dependencies. So it's giving it a predictable baseline to start from rather than going, right, the first thing I need to do is go and install some tools. Now, if I go and install tools, they're probably over here, and I probably need to go and do this. So it just gives us a very, repeatable and predictable starting point for Copilot to work from. So those few things that I've mentioned here are so important. Well scoping your issues, having that kind of structure of the problem statement, the acceptance criteria, what it is that you want to go and give pointers in terms of where those changes are probably needed. Number one. Number two, Copilot custom instruction files. Giving Copilot the context of the wider repo, what your coding standards are, all those things, doesn't just help the Copilot coding agent, also helps Copilot agent mode as well. Number three, the Copilot setup steps. Hugely, hugely important for Copilot coding agents. So you've got that predictable kind of baseline for Copilot to work from. And then MCP. If you need to go and access external tools, whether that's things like running Playwright or whether that's things like Notion, as we saw earlier, you can go and configure those and then grant access to coding agent to go and do that. And of course, available, as we saw earlier, with MCP support in Copilot agent mode in VS Code, I guess Visual Studio as well, the JetBrains editors, the Xcode, and the Eclipse with the action there as well. So, yeah, I'm excited. It's exciting to kind of see all of this stuff come together. Let me bring this back up on screen, and let me just go here. So here's the Notion one that we were working on. So you can see that as Copilot goes through, it's going and like building now its plan of what it needs to go and do. And the beauty of this, by the way, if we go and view the session, you'll see as we go through, there we go, is it will go and run linting steps, go and run the tests like we've gone and asked it to here. And then it kind of pauses, well, not pauses, but at some point kind of does a thought step and goes, right, got a good understanding. This is what I think is kind of going on. So these are requirements from the Notion doc, and this is the current code base structure. This is what I need to implement to get there. So it's kind of making that checkpoint of, right, this is where I am right now. This is what we need to go and do next. And then it's going to go and start working on that stuff. So yeah, you can go and see all of that and see how it approached what it was doing there. Let's have a look at that. Oh, the one that we started off earlier. The thing I love about this converting JavaScript to TypeScript is this is something I've had to do on so many projects. And it's one of those things that you think, this is going to take like half an hour. It's not going to take long. It's going to be okay. I'll get that done before lunch, and I'll do something else in the afternoon. And at 5 or 7 p.m., you're still working on it because you're getting conflicts. Like, one set of files is using some kind of ESM-based thing. The others are not. There's conflicts in how you're importing things, blah, 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 blah. And so there's so many things that that you need to go and think about. And the beauty here is obviously Copilot just went and worked through those. And, it'll kind of go through those. It'll go and run the builds, the tests, the linters to make sure things are working for us. So making the plan, going and viewing the files, creating that. Looks good. And we can see that the tests all pass there afterwards for that set. And it's kind of incrementally running those then. Let me run this test, this TypeScript version. There we go. So, I think now we're getting to this space where, I'm still the human in the loop, but now we're operating in that kind of pull request place. And Copilot is another member of my team there. So does Copilot have something like QA agent to do some testing manually and report it on the PR itself, since it already knows how to set up on the environment? Interesting question, Waylon. I guess not an explicit QA agent, but you can, as we've kind of seen, you can get Copilot to run those tests as part of that workflow. So it's checking its work as it goes along as well. And you could even combine it with something like Playwright, the Playwright MCP server, to go and, check that maybe something is working correctly. That's maybe something I might do in agent mode rather than coding agent, or maybe I would. I'm not sure, but yeah, you can steer Copilot in that direction to make sure that it's checking its own work as it goes, just like that we would as developers, right? Is there visibility into the underlying LLM requests that the agent makes so that we can improve prompting? Um, Not the kind of, kind of. So if you go and take a look, something failed there. We'll go and take a look at one which worked. Look at go here. Look at this one. So you can go and see the requests going back and through. But it's basically what you see in the session logs anyway. I think the session logs are a lot nicer to go and see this stuff. I can see all the test files that need to be converted. Let me run that. So, it's not like you get to see any system prompts or anything like that. The thing that I would really say, like I've said so many times on this stream before, is the context is so important. And the context in this instance is the GitHub issue. So is it well scoped? Is it a problem that can realistically be solved in a single pull request? If the answer is no, you probably want to decompose that and break it down into multiple issues. Have you then got a problem statement or an overview in that issue? Have you got acceptance criteria? Have you given pointers on what files need to be changed, etc.? Those are things that I would consider as part of that kind of context piece. Then the custom instructions file, making sure that you've told Copilot how it goes and builds, tests, lints, what your expectations are. Do you want it to run builds and tests and lints before every commit? Do you want it to do test-driven development? Do you want it to, I don't know, name variables in a certain way or use certain conventions? All of those things are important then, because then that steers Copilot in the direction that you want. So those are the things that I would say are particularly important for you there, Mark. Seems guardrails needed for agents too. There is a toxic agent, so what makes agents work, what they're not supposed to do, security layers with new tools and features. Yeah, I mean, this all kind of builds on the whole responsible AI pieces as well that, GitHub and Microsoft have been very focused on. And there was a comment saying about human in the loop still being there. In the chat, that's something we really believe in. Human in the loop is so important. That's why it's no surprise that we're using that pull request flow, because that's how we review the requests or the pull requests of other developers on the team, right? So it's that same kind of idea. Like Copilot will go and help make changes, but it's still on us to be that human in the loop to review, to make sure that code is all good, to run the necessary checks that we would go and run once we're comfortable, once we've done that manual review. Then we can go and run like our security scans, our quality checks, etc., etc. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's been useful. So I can feel my voice is a little bit strained already today. So I'm thinking we might kind of finish somewhere around here, because we've been going for about an hour and a half now, actually. But I think that's been a really kind of solid session here for us today anyway. Yeah, we've dived deeply into Copilot coding agent, so definitely go and take a look at that. If you are interested, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Oop, there we go. gh.io/copilot/coding-agent. There's more docs there that expand more and more on kind of what we've talked about here today. So definitely, oops, wrong thing to remove. I removed myself. Let me hide that there. There we go. So with that, I can't remember if we'll be doing a stream next tonight. Let me see. Let me see what's going on. So it doesn't look like we're going scheduled at the moment. So I think the next thing that's coming up this week will be there's an open source Friday session with Karen tomorrow, and there's also an open source Friday session with Superbase as well. Now, I must say, I will not be streaming for the next 2 weeks, I'm afraid. I'm going to be out of office. I have a very exciting event. If anyone can remember what I've mentioned over the past couple of months, then you might know what that event is. So I'm going to be taking some time out for some exciting things personally. So I will be back, I think the week of the 23rd. So we'll be streaming at this time from that week. So we'll have a couple of weeks off from Rub Duck Thursdays at this time. But the other folks will be continuing on their normal kind of times there as well. So do go along, do support those. And otherwise, I think that is probably us for this session. So with that, folks, I will see you in a few weeks. So thank you. Yes, thanks, folks. Well, enjoy your holiday as well, Surly. Thank you for joining as always. And thank you, Tim, for crazing us. I will definitely have some good relaxing time off. And yeah, I will no doubt see you all in a few weeks. And we'll carry on building some other cool things, I'm sure. So until then, folks, thanks for tuning in. Happy coding. Enjoy playing with coding agents and Copilot agent mode. And let us know how you get on. We always love to see just the projects and the things that you're building. So feel free to tag me on X. I'm Redo Bowen. Tag GitHub as well. On LinkedIn, I'm Chris Reddington. I'm on Blue Sky. I think I'm Chris Reddington there as well. I can't remember. I should be more active there, but I'm not. But tag us, GitHub as well. Let us know what you're building, because we always like to see all the things that people are working on. It's what kind of motivates us with all of this. So thank you, folks. We will be back in a few weeks. And until then, bye for now.